Hello again. I spoke earlier this morning about immigration and the way that many people in Britain and America both find it an undesirable phenomenon. One of the things which puzzles me a little is how difficult it can be to find out actually who is coming to live in Britain and where they come from. Like many other people, I'm also a little confused as to why we need so many new immigrants and why the government claims to be unable to reduce immigration. Not just this government, of course. This has been going on for 50 or 60 years. I can remember Ted Heath, when he was Prime Minister, I remember him introducing immigration bills, for example, in 1971, claiming he was going to reduce immigration, but that didn't happen at all. First, here's a question. Which nationality make up the largest group of immigrants in the United Kingdom? I suspect that most people would guess that the largest group is likely to be Africans or people from the Middle East or the Indian subcontinent. Also those who are coming here as asylum seekers that we can do little about. In fact, these people make up a really tiny proportion of those arriving to live in Britain. Of the hundreds of thousands of new immigrants each year, just 30,000 are asylum seekers. This is curious because the government in Britain is constantly saying that they want to reduce immigration below 100,000. So if asylum seekers and refugees only make up 30,000, who's making up all the hundreds of thousands of other immigrants? I give a link in the description to this video to the United Nations statistics relating to asylum seekers and refugees in Britain. This all suggests that the great majority of those coming here to live must be doing so through legal channels. That is to say, with the knowledge and agreement of the British government. In fact, the nationality of the biggest group of immigrants last year was Chinese. Every year, almost 100,000 Chinese students come to study here in Britain, and many of them stay on and get jobs. After a recent change in the law, over 5 million more people in Hong Kong will have the legal right to settle in Britain. They won't even need to come and study. Over 5 million people will have a perfect legal right to come and stay in Britain and become British citizens whenever they feel like it. This is all very much at odds with the impression which most of us have. As I say, ask the average person about large-scale immigration to Britain and they'll probably tell you about inflatable dinghies full of Africans which cross the channel illegally. This is a drop in the ocean. Most immigration is sanctioned and arranged by the government without, I have to say, drawing much attention to what they're doing. Before going any further, I'm bound to observe that Chinese people in this country are in general the most peaceable, law-abiding and respectable folk you could wish to have as neighbours. You won't find noisy parties with Chinese music blaring out, keeping you awake at night, nor are Chinese people running around London shooting and stabbing each other. They usually work hard and keep themselves to themselves. The point is, though, that far from the immigration to Britain of these people being something which the government is powerless to prevent, we have just changed the law so that millions more Chinese people now have the right to settle here. I'm not offering an opinion on whether this is a good or a bad thing, but I am saying that it's not how the matter is usually presented to the people of Britain. Over the last few years, governments have told us that firstly they're powerless to stop people from Europe coming to live in Britain, and then lately that they have a legal duty to treat asylum seekers fairly and allow them to stay in the country until their cases are decided. In short, there's nothing they can do about immigration of this kind. However, we've now left Europe and the numbers of asylum seekers are down to 30,000 a year, And yet mass immigration is still taking place, with the government facilitating it. It doesn't seem to be about millions of people from sub-Saharan Africa settling in Britain, but something else entirely.